can. How you doing, Brian?
Great, and y'all?
We're all healthy, thank God.
Everybody sounds healthy. It's amazing.
Well, it's because working on the planning board, all that work we do.
Yes.
Hi, Brian.
Hi there. Is that Harry in the background?
That's Harry in the
That's
background.
Harry.
There you are. Dapper as ever.
Restart. Come on, guys. I want to be able to start the meeting, but in 4 minutes, but I need to get a picture and I'm having trouble getting a picture. Try one more time doing that. Oh, bingo. Can you hear me now?
Got it?
Yes, what happened?
I don't know. I just hit it. I pushed on my thing and it came out.
You got any light on your face there, buddy? You're in the
What?
shadows.
It's very light. It's nice. I may turn it
That's a little
have to
better.
turn the opposite way. That's all.
Yeah.
It's a
Maybe
very
you
Other
bright,
cheek?
I have a bright sunny room. Everybody
Yeah.
looks healthy.
Turn the
Amazing.
other cheek, is that what you're doing?
Where's Eileen? Eileen hasn't joined us yet.
No.
Okay.
She comes in right on time normally.
Oh, I take my word for it.
Right.
Is John with us?
Where's John? John?
So I
John,
am.
I didn't hear yet either. And where's Roger? There's
Hey,
Roger.
Ron?
I'm here.
Has everybody met
Everybody's here
Roger, by the
except
way?
Eileen.
We got everybody.
No, Eileen, I know Eileen knows that she has to sign in. She's been giving me a hard time about not getting invitation till this morning.
Well, yeah, we didn't get it till this morning ourselves.
Yeah, no, we all did. But Beverly had told me that it would be a few hours before, quote unquote, before the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, Beverly.
It arrived at 8:13.
Something
fine.
else for sure, huh?
Good morning, Miss.
Brian, is that a beard?
Pardon me?
Is that a beard? that you-
No,
No, it looks like.
it's the light.
Oh,
No,
there's Eileen.
I
You
can't.
got something there.
Well, good morning,
Good morning,
Eileen.
Eileen. Can you hear us?
Morning.
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 Good enough. This is going to be an interesting meeting. Everybody. So, is anybody missing now? Who's missing?
No one.
What? I think everybody's here, right?
Everybody.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, we're all here. Amazing.
Everyone's here.
Okay, in exactly 1 minute, we'll start the meeting. It's now 9:29 on my computer anyway. If you hear the vacuum cleaner, there's somebody cleaning. I threw out of my room, but we'll see what happens. Okay, come on, 9:30.
9:30.
Okay.
9:30.
Good morning and welcome to the first virtual planning board meeting, regular meeting on Thursday, June 11th, 2020 at 9:30 a.m. If you haven't already done so, please silence your cell phones. Deputy Town Clerk, please call the roll.
Member Brown,
Present.
Member Mendelssohn,
Present.
Member DeMoss,
Present.
Member Goldenberg,
I'm here.
Member Adwar,
I'm here.
Member Bowden,
Here.
Chairperson Axelrod,
Here.
Town Attorney Rubin,
Here.
and Planner Allen.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Will everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
And we go right out of frame.
Right.
Well, God, I think I'm wearing shorts.
Yeah. I pledge allegiance to
Allegiance to the flag.
the flag of the
United
United States of America and to
And
the
to the
republic
republic
For
for which it
which it
stands,
stands,
My
one
name,
nation under God.
under God,
Indivisible.
indivisible, and justice
Justice for all.
for all. Thank you.
That was fantastic, that flag waving. I love that.
Yes, thank you. Beverly.
Okay. We will have the approval of the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, I call for a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
I make that motion.
I'll second
Thank
it.
you. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We'll now have the swearing in of the public who will be giving the information during the requests. For those giving testimony, please raise your right hands, state and spell your full name individually, and state the application you are affiliated with before being sworn. Deputy County Clerk, please swear in those giving testimony.
Okay, thank you for coming in now. Is everyone there?
They're still coming.
Okay.
Here they come. Guess we're waiting for Mr. Fishman and Mr. Nutter.
Here he
There's
is.
Mr. Fishman.
Everyone there?
Land Design Group's here, just can you,
That looks like one more needs
We're
to
missing,
come
who
in,
is Javi?
Okay, come on.
can you hear Land Design Group?
Yeah, John, go ahead and mute. If you guys can mute for a sec.
Beverly, do we go on or are we waiting for Javi?
I can go ahead and swear the ones that are here. And can you please raise your right hands? And repeat, by the authority vested in me as a notary of the state of Florida, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And I also, for each one of you, we would actually need you to state your name and your affiliation with the applications.
I'm Paul Fishman, Principal Choif Levy Fishman, to present the Stanley residence for site plan approval.
Okay,
John Lang and Molly from Lang Design Group. We are also here for the Stanley project. We're the landscape architects of record.
Okay.
okay.
Mr. Nutter?
David Nutter with Boatlift and Docks, South Florida, for the HAP and Horsegiven applications.
Okay.
Beverly, I'll include myself, Ingrid Allen, Town Planner.
Oh, okay. All righty. Public comments under the virtual meeting, people have to register, and since there was nobody who registered for the public comments, we have no public comments, so we'll therefore go on to number 7, approval of the minutes. Are there any correction to the minutes of February 13th, 2020?
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Harry.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, number 9. I'd like to welcome Roger Brown, our newest member. He is from Bellito and will give us he will be our expert now from now on boats, seawalls, etc. Roger, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't used to say that, but now I did.
Okay. We will now have election of a chairperson. This is 9B. The only rules and regulations say chairperson is elected for 1 year, and each year we have an election. And if there is a situation, and the only rule is you have to be a member of the board for at least 1 year before you can be a chairman. I now accept nominations for the board.
I'd like
I
to,
nominate you, David.
I'd like to nominate David Axelrod as chairman.
I
second that.
Second, third,
Are there any other nominations?
no.
Okay, can I have all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank
You?
you. Okay, we now have to nominate a vice chairperson. Is there a motion to nominate somebody for vice chairperson?
I nominate John Bowden.
I'll second that.
Could I make a comment, please?
Go right ahead.
I'm not much of a parliamentarian, and I would just as soon that someone else take this fine honor if they have that desire.
How about Mr. Eric Goldenberg?
I would accept.
Okay. Second, Eric? Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other nominations? None? All in favor? Say aye.
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 All
Thank you.
opposed, say no.
Jessica from North Palm Beach.
I'll color back things.
Thank you, Brian.
You betcha.
Okay. We're now up to, let's go here to E, and it's a discussion of discussion on D, discussion on rooftop landscaping. Town Planner Allen, you want to answer this? Thank you.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. For the record, Ingrid Allen, Town Planner. If the board recalls back on February 13, 2020, which was your last planning board meeting, John Bowden requested a discussion item relating to landscaping on building rooftops to include how such landscaping may affect heights. Now, I did a review of the town code of ordinances, and the code is silent on rooftop landscaping. However, I did have a discussion with our building official to see how he would process somebody who's coming in and proposing some sort of rooftop landscaping. He advised me that prior to issuing a permit, he would require a drainage plan, an engineering plan, to determine sufficient structural and wind loads. And this is consistent with a lot of codes that I've seen throughout the country that actually have a green building code and actually call out rooftop landscaping. In terms of how the rooftop landscaping may affect height, I've gone ahead in the memorandum that's in your packets. I've defined building height as per section 30-131 of the code. And building height is defined as the vertical distance between the finished floor elevation and either the flat roof or the pitch roof. There are some exceptions to building height in the code. They do call out certain architectural features for single family, multifamily units. These architectural features are, chimneys, parapet walls, towers. Also, another exception to building height are mechanical features like the air conditioning equipment, so on and so forth. Landscaping is not included here. So really the rooftop landscaping would not have any bearing on building height, as I said, according to the code. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have on this discussion item.
Are there any questions?
Can I ask what precipitated the question of rooftop landscaping?
John?
To Mr. Bowden.
Is he muted?
He's muted.
He's muted. John, unmute.
I'm
Unmute
sorry,
Nicole.
thank you very much. I noticed there were 2 or 3 buildings that had some landscaping on their roofs. And my only concern was the issue if a hurricane should happen. Since it is not a major issue, I think we can leave it go at this point. And that would be my recommendation. Thank you, Ingrid, for your input.
My concern is that there are a few independent homes here that have rooftop landscaping. And I have no objection to them putting bushes and those types of structures. But if they put trees on, I think that what we have, if Planner Allen feels that we need to address that in an ordinance and adjust an ordinance, that's fine. But other than that, I would just keep it the height of the existing height in the ordinance now. So nothing, large tree cannot go up there because it would extend beyond the height restrictions we already have.
Do you think it would be worthwhile for us to recommend that since there is some homes that have, not to regulate the height, but to have certain requests or orders that are in place, let's say, in case of storm, or what kind of landscaping could be done? Is it worthwhile for us to recommend that to the commission?
But isn't that like going into everybody's bedroom? I mean, it's like, the concern I have is just a height restriction. I think that would limit, it's like when we had that
Okay.
discussion, Commissioner Brown, about length overall boats versus a height of boats, you know, how length overall basically controls the height a lot of times. But if we just keep the height restrictions the way they are now and just including landscaping, then that should cover that, I would think. Alan, what do you think?
I don't know that I agree with that. Again, building
Okay.
is about the structure, right? And then you're adding landscaping. Landscaping is not a structure. So I think there might be some issue there. Again, as I said, there's other codes throughout the country which have actual green building standards, and they have some provisions about the certain type of species that can be on a rooftop, you know, landscaping. Just thinking out loud, and maybe the town attorney can give his input. But I know there's obviously some provisions in our code about nuisance, and you know, we always have to keep in mind the welfare and safety of the public. So if somebody did have some very large tree on their rooftop, maybe that could be dealt with via or through the code enforcement officer.
I would agree with Ingrid. I think the important thing is structure support and drainage that is necessary. And, you know, the few houses that I see it's normally on the ocean side that is visible to me. And it really, I don't see a problem with it. If anything, if we're building new, have it be part of the landscaping plan. So we are aware of it.
Yeah, I'm going to ask in the future to raise your hand to add a request. Roger, do you still have a comment?
I do. I mean, I don't see I don't understand what the difference is. I can put a flagpole on my roof, or a radio or television antenna, or a satellite receiver, digital transmitters, or telecommunication equipment. There's no restriction on how high I can put a flagpole on my roof. I think that John's original concern that he mentioned was that he had an issue with a tree being put on somebody's roof that maybe during a hurricane might get blown off. But there are, I mean, one of the plans that we're about to review today has landscaping on their upper deck of their roof.
Eileen?
David, I don't see any problem with that.
Hold it, Harry. Raise your hand because we can't, you know, comment like that. Eileen has the.
Yeah, first of all, I think that what Ingrid's memo said was that it's structures, and to what Commissioner Brown just said, I believe that if a antenna, we've dealt with this before, if an antenna goes higher than the height restriction, you have to get a variance because that's a structure. I don't know about a flagpole. I assume it might be a structure too, but I don't know. What I think that Ingrid wrote in her memo was that landscaping is not deemed a structure, and so it could be higher than the height restriction. However, she also wrote in here that you have to have a drainage and an engineering plan to determine drainage and structural issues. So if some kind of tree, not because it was high, but some kind of tree was going to go up there and cause some drainage or structural issues, then that could be addressed. So to me, I don't see how we could stop any kind of, unless it was a structural or drainage issue, how we could stop it unless we ask the commission to change our code. Because right now, Ingrid's memo clearly says that landscaping can exceed the height.
That's correct.
Harry?
David,
Yeah.
when is it my turn?
What? Yeah, speak now, Harry. It's your comment.
David, landscaping on the roof can only be a benefit to the owner and to the neighbors. I think it's something very good, and if they want to put a tree, they can only put a tree on a roof with a pot, where the pot would be holding the base of the tree. And I don't see any problem with that.
Brian, you have a comment?
Leave well enough alone.
Oh, okay. Does anybody want, right now we have a choice. Either we can recommend to the commission or we can just leave everything alone. What's the general opinion? To
I
leave it-
move that we leave it alone.
Okay, Brian, same thing.
Agreed,
Roger?
second.
Agreed.
Okay, we don't even need a vote on it. We can just agree to leave it alone. Okay, let's move on, go down a little bit from the top of the house and go to discussion on submerged land leases. Again, Ingrid, I pass to you.
Yes. This was the second discussion item that was requested by member John Bowden at the February 13, 2020 planning meeting. There was some discussion at this meeting about whether the lakes at Bellito are actually owned by the town. I believe there was some confusion about that. And if they were owned, if a submerged land lease from the town would be, would apply for accessory marine facilities. Now, like rooftop landscaping, submerged land leases, the code is silent on this topic. Now, I did provide in your packets the Bellito plat that I found. And actually, if you go, Tarisha, to slide number 3, here you have the Bellito plat. In the plat, there's a legal description on the bottom left. Slide number 4 is actually a blown up, blow up of the legal description. This is obviously very hard to read. What it does say is that the use of the canals and lakes are dedicated to the public as a waterway. Now that's in the actual legal description for the Bellito plat. Now, I did go to the Palm Beach County Property Appraiser website. And when you click on the canals and lakes around Bellito, the property appraiser does not delineate those canals or lakes with a parcel control number. So they don't show any ownership. Again, that's from the perspective of the Palm Beach County Property Appraiser. That inspired me to click on some of the other canals or water bodies, if you wish, that are in the town to see if there was any parcel control number. And I provided for you some maps. They're actually slide number 5 and 6. Again, there are some canals, water bodies, whichever way you
Right.
that are delineated parcels. Again, going to the property appraiser's website. Again, these are privately owned. If we look at right there, the map that's on the screen right now, if you look in the Boca Highlands area, that number 1 in red, that area, the canal is owned by Boca Highlands Center, Inc. And if you go north of there, you see about 15 different or individually owned delineated parcels. And then north of that, or that actual water body there, is owned by Gordon Homes, Inc., number 3. And then moving north, there's another body of water, a canal there, that's owned by the Boca Cove Property Homeowners Association, Inc. And then number 5, which is between Russell Drive and Bel Air, that area, there's no ownership according to the property appraiser's website. And then heading north towards Bellito, that one lake area, again, that has no ownership according to the property appraiser's website. And then we can go to the next slide, please. You'll see number 7, which is again on the north side of Bellito. That's a lake, again, no ownership. And then heading north, number 8 there is the Ocean Cove at Highland Beach HOA. These are privately owned, and I think town attorney can maybe elaborate a bit more on how a submerged land lease might work here, because I do know that there's quite a bit of nuance there. In terms of the state-owned submerged lands, I do want to note that when a property owner goes for FDEP approval, that's the Florida Department of Environmental Protection approval, let's say a boat lift or a dock, in the FDEP correspondence or approval, if you want to call it that, there's a proprietary review section in that permit. And it's there where FDEP will determine whether that particular activity is part of the sovereign, I'm going to use the correct terminology here, is located on sovereign submerged lands. And I did review about 50 current FDE permits in the town. I looked at properties that are right on the intercoastal. I looked at properties that were along some of the canals in the town. And granted, I didn't look at all of them because there's a lot of FDEP permits, but around 50 that I looked at, I couldn't find one that was deemed located on sovereign submerged land. Now, that's not to say that there isn't one that is, referenced that way, but I couldn't find any in my review. I don't know if the board has any comments on this.
Roger?
item.
Roger?
Was the purpose of reviewing this to try and regulate the marine accessories?
I'll again defer to Mr. Bowden. I don't want to speak for him, but if he can elaborate.
I would say that I think the issue has been well covered. I think that it has been shown that we haven't really paid too much attention to the ground under the water in our town. I don't know whether there's anything that this commission or this board should be doing about it. I think that we're aware of it now. Homeowners associations, other dock owners should be aware of who owns the ground under their dock. I think that that has been laid out well so that owners would not be surprised that they may not own the land underneath them, their dock. And so the questions from my standpoint have been answered. I don't think any further action is required. This information can remain available for those homeowners who have a dock. Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments?
No.
Roger?
I'm sorry, but I just find it interesting. A couple of things. First is Gordon Homes did go bankrupt, and I don't know if they retained ownership to that property through their bankruptcy. And secondly, that the town of Highland Beach restricts anchoring in any of its lakes and waterways, which I'm for, I'm not against, but I'm just curious as to how we can restrict the anchoring of a vessel when it doesn't own or manage that waterway.
It can regulate the the waterways that are dedicated to the public can be regulated by the town. The privately owned ones, most likely not. And we can't regulate in navigation. I mean, there's a statute on that, but so in Bellito, as Ingrid pointed out, where you have a public dedication, no, you don't own under the land. It's owned by the public, but the town as the public body sort of administers the riparian rights that go along with those properties. So that's generally how it works. I mean, that's the common scenario, the ownership, but there's also, scenarios where the HOA, there's an association that owns it and they get to control how it's allocated and used.
Thank you.
Okay. Eric?
So the bottom line is that that in the Bellito Lakes, let's call it that, the two lakes in Bellito, that is owned basically by the public because there's no
Correct.
other ownership, and there can be no anchoring or, as they say, a gunk hole for someone traveling north or south.
Correct. Because the town can regulate it, correct.
Any other comments? Again, I don't think we need any action on this. This was basically more a discussion. So I'll move us on to 9F, which is the developmental order application number 20-0001. David and Randy Stanley, application by Chef Levy Fishman, Architecture Design, requesting site plan approval for a new 3-story, 10,857 square foot, single-family residence with a pool and spa located at 4206. Do any board members have any ex parte communications to disclose? Okay, no. Good. At this time, then, I open the public hearing. Town Planner Allen, please present your testimony and recommendations regarding this application.
Sure. Again, for the record, Ingrid Allen, Town Planner. Actually, before I get to presenting the item, I want to make 2 corrections. Can you hear me?
Yes.
A little background noise. I did want to make 2 corrections. At the bottom of page 39, there is a reference in the planning report. There's a reference to residential single-family estate RE zoning district. This is a typographical error. On the top of page 39, I did reference the correct zoning district, which is residential single-family RS. I also referenced it also on the bottom of page 39. So I did want to make that correction. And also in the staff report on page 39, there is a reference to a guest house. This is also a typographical error. When you look at page 38 of the planning report, on the top of the memorandum, you'll see the subject to the record. Again, this is a site plan approval for a new 3-story, 10,857 square foot single-family residence with a pool. This is how the item was advertised in the newspaper. So I just want to make that clarification as well. Just wanted to give you a bit of background on the property. On September 19, 2019, the Town Commission approved a declaration and unity of title for the properties, one located at 402 and the other located at 4206 Intercoastal Drive. That was resolution number 19-023. Now, prior to the unity of title, each of these properties received a demolition permit to demolish the existing family homes that existed, again, on each property. Now, pursuant to section 30-67 of the town's code of ordinances, a single-family detached residence is permitted in the RS zoning district. The request is in compliance with the development regulations for the RS zoning district found in section 30-64A of the town's code of ordinances. And if we can now go to the slides, Teresa, we could start at slide number 7. Here you have an aerial of the property. You could see the large unified parcel there in red. We could go to, actually we'll go to page 51. It should be the site plan. Here you have the applicant's site plan. You could see the pool back. The applicant does meet all the setback requirements, again, for this particular zoning district. We could move forward. Actually, this is the floor plan, but there's some separate sheets we'll go forward that give a little bit better detail on the site, the floor plans, excuse me. This is the proposed landscape plan by the applicant. And we can move forward. This is the second floor landscape plan. As you can see, the applicant is proposing artificial turf on the second floor. And here we go, are the landscape notes. This is the first floor plan. This is, you can see the detail a little bit better. So first, we can move to the next slide, which is the second floor. And the next slide is the third floor and floor plan. And then we have the roof plan. We can move forward. Here you have the elevations. The top one is the front elevation of the home, and the bottom is the rear elevation of the home. We do have some renderings coming up, so you'll get a better perspective. And then the top is the left side elevation of the home that's proposed, and then the bottom is the right side elevation of the home, the east side. Okay. And here you have the renderings. These are provided by the applicant. This is the rendering for the front of the home, and the next one should be the rear of the home. So staff does recommend approval of the site plan. It's date stamped April 9th, 2020, subject to the following conditions. Following approval by the planning board and prior to initiation of construction, the applicant will be required to obtain a building permit from the Town of Highland Beach Building Department, and pursuant to section 30-21G of the town code, commencement of construction shall be initiated within 2 years following the date of approval by the planning board. Completion of all conditions of approval shall occur within 2 years following the date of approval by the planning board. I will be glad to address any questions the board might have.
Does anybody on the board have any questions for the town planner? If they're on, yeah,
May I?
Brian?
Ingrid, and maybe the architect can answer this as well. Is there any changes to the seawall at all? Does that stay as current, or is it going to be raised?
It's currently, we actually have a permit for it already. We're working on the dock. It's being raised to 6.5 NAVD.
So it'd be pretty much like to the property to the left of the proposed home. That's going to be pretty much that height.
Roughly, correct.
Okay. Now, the one thing I noticed, particularly at the curve at the back of the property, is that it seemed like there was some issues back there. I'm not sure if it's a seawall. It's certainly a lot of erosion back there. So I would certainly want to take care of that aspect.
Yes, just to properly address that. Again, my name's Paul Fishman, Choice Levy Fishman, 8425 Biscayne. We're actually building a brand new seawall in front of the existing, so that we're able to retain the soil and all that undermining that goes on and that suction that you're probably seeing over there. So once we go forward with this part of construction, which is right around the corner, that all goes away, because we literally have brand new seawall, brand new king piles, brand new batter piles, the works.
Terrific, terrific.
Okay. Are there any further questions for Ingrid? Then I'm going to move on and ask the applicant, does he want to make a presentation of any sort? Mr. Fishman? What?
Yes, I don't want to waste anybody's time, so I'll try to keep it brief, but
We have a lot to do, right?
So I was going to say, if Tanisha can go ahead and play the video, and I'll just go ahead and read my little presentation. And so good morning, board members and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard today. My name's Paul Fishman, Principal, Choice Levy Fishman Architecture and Design. We're located at 8425 Biscayne Boulevard, Suite 201 in Miami, Florida. I'm here today seeking site plan approval for a new 3-story residence and site amenities. Located on an oversized pie-shaped lot, my clients selected this property for their lifelong residence, in which every space inside and out has been given extra consideration. Specifically, we have studied how my clients and their family live today and how they, along with the residents, will adapt to the future. One of the major elements you'll notice on the site plan are the significant front, rear, and side yard spaces. This was done by design to accommodate outdoor activities with their children, a new puppy, a true vegetable garden, along with lush organic native landscaping to soften the lines of the architecture. Additionally, this creates appropriate privacy through green buffers and specimen trees, notably without man-made structures. With this in mind, we designed an extremely sensible size home, exceeding minimum setbacks throughout the bulk of the residence, allowing us to utilize and integrate the green space into the design on all 4 sides of the residence. As you'll notice in the renderings and video, we're using a combination of tropical and sustainable materials, including limestone, woods, concrete, glass, dark bronze, Kynar finished aluminum, amongst many others. All these materials respond extremely well to our South Florida environment. Using the site elements and landscaping, the exterior materials bleed into the interiors and vice versa to create a seamless indoor-outdoor lifestyle that can be utilized year-round in South Florida. In numerous instances, we bring the exterior building materials into the building and vice versa, further accentuating the intentional blurred line between indoors and outdoors. Planters have been integrated into the second floor on both east and west sides to bring the tropical outdoor landscaping into every space of the residence. On the west planter, we even have a cascading water feature from the second floor being used for massages, as well to embed the spa-like feel of the residence. Last, on a more technical note, I'd like to walk you through a few of our environmental design strategies on this residence. One, a thorough site water retention plan has been developed under the South Florida Water Management District guidelines. And this entails over 200 linear feet of exfiltration trenches, retaining walls, and trench drains. This is to ensure all water is collected on site without adversely affecting neighboring properties and reducing the demand on the town storm sewer. Our goal is to also implement a rainwater reharvesting system. This is achieved by using internal roof drains, site drains, and exfiltration trenches, tying into an underground cistern and reusing the gray water for irrigation. I'm also currently exploring solar energy tied to a battery backup as an additional means of reducing energy demand and allowing for future resilience. This would allow us to collect solar energy with photovoltaic panels while storing the energy on Tesla or other battery backup system, reducing the amount of energy required from the grid. We are also specifying high albedo roofing and hardscape to minimize heat retention of the residence, site, and building materials, minimizing the energy demand of the HVAC and other systems. Furthermore, this strategy minimizes the heat island effect, hence minimizing impact on local environment and ozone layer. Other environmental strategies and materials on this project include insulated glass, low-E coatings, deep overhangs, home automation, high efficiency equipment, amongst many others. Implementation of these strategies minimize solar heat gain, radiation, and glare, requiring less of an energy demand, ultimately minimizing the environmental footprint for the next 50 to 100 years. Thank you so much for your time and consideration, and please let me know if you have any further questions.
Does anybody, Ingrid or anybody, oh, Eileen, go right ahead.
Yeah, I just have a comment. I just want to tell the architect that I think it's absolutely stunning and that I'd like you to ask your clients if I could be adopted to live there.
I requested the same.
Yeah,
it's very kind.
Really.
I also want to say that I've been on this board for now like 4.5 years. This is without a doubt the best set of plans I have seen and the best presentation that we have seen in the last 4.5 years. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. We really appreciate it.
I concur. I think you're
Eric?
well prepared, and I think the structure is stunning, and I will have a view of it and be pleased.
Thank you so much.
Can we have a tour when it's completed? That's what I would like.
Yes.
Roger, you want to comment?
I studied, actually, I have one question and a comment. I studied the plans quite extensively. I think your exfiltration design is beyond exceptional. I think it's really incredible. And the reusing of the water for irrigation is just fantastic. I'm sorry I didn't use you as my architect. And I probably would have had a lot less issues. But my only question is the front door. I see it's a really oversized door. Are you able to make that a hurricane-proof door at that size?
Correct. So that is actually rated for high velocity hurricane zone. We actually have been working over the past 10 years closely with all these manufacturers and their testing. So essentially every year it just gets a little better and better. So the current door specified has a full Florida approval, has an integrated weep system. But the only difference from the video is that it has to swing out, and that's how it's able to meet all 3 of the testing criteria for the Florida approval.
John,
so yes, the short answer is yes.
Okay, John.
Everyone here will know my question is going to be, I'm hoping that you can utilize permeable materials everywhere you are covering the ground to help your collection. Very unique and wonderful system of collecting the water, but getting it through the materials and into their ground, of course, is important to me. So I know we have no regulations regarding the use of this, but I would encourage you to maximize its use. Thank you.
Ingrid, I would make one comment. Ingrid, take this back to CRP as an example of things going forward for the future, because it definitely meets a lot of what I heard last Thursday at the webinar.
Right. Good point.
Thank you so much, Member Axelrod. It's very sweet of you.
Okay.
Do you mind me asking one more question? Do you mind me asking who's doing your seawall?
I have no idea because our owner's representative, he's been coordinating. I've been dealing with the consultants and he's been dealing with the potential. We're going to obviously bid it out because it's going to be an extensive project.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. If there's no further comments, I think at this point in time, we can have the public hearing closed. And is there a motion to approve the plan or deny the plan, which I don't think is a question, but to approve the plan as presented?
Motion.
Oh, I need a motion. Motion?
To approve.
I make a motion to approve the the plans as presented.
Second?
Second,
Okay. Would you please call the roll, Town Clerk?
Member Goldenberg,
Approve,
Member Demas,
approve, yes.
Member Brown,
Yes, approved.
Member Mendelson,
Yes,
Member Adwar. You're muted. I can't
Harry,
hear.
you're muted.
You're muted, Harry. Harry, push the button on the bottom left. Harry?
Member,
There it is.
Okay, approved. Go ahead.
Member Bowden,
I approve.
Chairperson Axelrod.
Approved.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank
you.
Have a
We look
wonderful
forward to
day.
seeing this.
We can't wait to build it.
Okay,
Take care.
okay, thank you. We will now move on to 9G, which is developmental approval application number 20-0002, Larry D. Hershkovitz. Application by David Nutter, Boat Lifts and Docks of South Florida for special exception approval to install a 10,000-pound boat lift on slip number 7 for the property located at 1016 Bel Air Drive in the Yachtsman Cove Townhouse Condominium. Do any board members have any ex parte communications to disclose?
No.
Okay, at this time, I now open the public hearing. Town planner, please present your testimony.
Hi, good afternoon again. Good morning. For the record, Ingrid Allen, Town Planner. I think it's best if we start looking at some of the photos that were included in your packets, just to get perspective of the existing dock and slip area. Could you please go to slide number 24? I guess we could start there. Again, just to familiarize those of you that may not know the area, here you have the existing dock. Here we're looking northward. Actually, we go to the next slide. There you'll see slip number 7, which pertains to this specific request, the property owners at 1016 Bel Air Drive. Go to the next one. And we have here some different views of the existing dock. Here you have a view looking southward from the pool. You can see the dock in the back. Here's another view, again, looking southward from the pool. You have your north arrow on the bottom. Here you're looking westward of the on the existing dock, and then you have, here's an eastward view of the existing dock. We can go now to slide number 35, please. There we go. So here you have the lift detail that was provided by the applicant, and of course this is included in your packet. You can see here that the top of the lift measures 6 feet, while the superstructure of the boat when lifted, which in this case is a jet ski, it's a personal watercraft, it's at 3 feet 9 inches. So the superstructure of the boat is where those handlebars are on the jet ski. Now the proposed lift is 2 feet 3 inches higher than the superstructure of the boat when lifted, and this is not compliant with the town's code definition of boat lift, which states that in no case shall the lift be higher than the superstructure of the boat when lifted. So as a result of this, the applicant was required to receive a variance approval from the Board of Adjustment and Appeals for this additional height. The applicant did receive approval by the Board of Adjustment and Appeals variance at their June 9th, 2020 meeting. I did reference in the staff report that I would update the board today at the meeting as to how that variance went. The applicant has obtained both Army Corps and Florida Department of Environmental Protection approval for the lift. They've also provided approval from the Yachtsman Cove Townhouse Condominium Association to install the lift. That approval by the HOA is included in your packet. Now that the applicant did receive a variance approval, the request does meet the town code requirements for boat lifts. Staff does recommend approval of the special exception request subject to the following conditions: that the applicant receives approval from the Board of Adjustment and Appeals to allow the boat lift to be 2 feet which is higher than the superstructure of the boat when lifted, which I already indicated they received approval. Following approval by the Board of Adjustment and Appeals and the Planning Board, and prior to initiation of construction, the applicant will be required to obtain a building permit from the Building Department for the town of Highland Beach. And pursuant to section 3021G of the Town Code, commencement of construction shall be initiated within 2 years following the date of approval by the Planning Board. Completion of all conditions of approval shall occur within 2 years following the date of approval by the Planning Board. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
Any questions for Ingrid? No, then in that case, do we have it? Does the applicant choose to make any presentation?
Oh, no, I'm here just in case they have any questions for me as well. Ingrid
Okay.
explained it very well.
Then making it short, does the board have any questions for the applicant?
Other than that's it's going to be a pretty big jet ski for 10,000 pounds. So I imagine that it'll be set so that eventually there could be a boat in there. Have any of the other residents had any issues with the construction of the lift?
To my knowledge, no.
I can add to that. We haven't received any public comment from anyone in the community.
Great.
It appears to be the same lift that's on the north end of the dock.
Right.
Or on the west end of the dock.
Okay. Comments? All righty, is there in that case, the public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion to approve the request or a motion to deny?
I move that we approve the request.
I'll second.
Okay. Deputy Town Clerk, please call the roll.
Member Demas,
Approve, yes.
Member Goldenberg,
I approve.
Member Brown,
Approve.
Member Mendelson,
Approve.
Member Adwar,
Yes,
Member Bowden,
Approve.
Chairperson Axelrod,
Approved.
motion carries.
Okay, we'll now move on to 9H, which is a very similar thing. Development approval application number 20-0003, Kimberly A. Trust, application by David Nutter, Boat Lifts and Docks of South Florida for a special exception approval to install a 10,000-pound capacity boat lift on slip number 3 for the property located at 1004 Bel Air Drive in the Yachtsman Cove Townhouse Condominium. Board have any ex parte communications to include? Okay, then at this time, I open the public hearing and have Town Planner Allen again. comment.
Hello. Okay, so this request, 1,000-pound capacity boat lift is basically identical to the previous special exception request. The only difference is that the applicant is, their property is at 1004 Bel Air Drive, and the proposed slip number in this case is slip number 3. Teresa, if we can go to slide number 38, I just refreshed your memory. You could see here is slip number 3. I've provided that little white arrow, so you could see it's a bit westward from the previous application, which was slip number 7. Teresa, can we please go to slide, we've already seen these. Can we go to slide number 48, which is the detail of the boat lift? There you go. So here's the lift detail. Again, it's identical to the previous special exception application. Again, the top of the lift is 6 feet, while the superstructure of the boat lifted, which again is a jet ski, is 3 feet 9 inches. So the proposed lift is 2 feet 3 inches higher than the superstructure of the boat when lifted, and it's not compliant with the definition of boat lift, which states that in no case shall the lift be higher than the superstructure of the boat when lifted. Obviously, this triggered a variance application, and the applicant did receive approval for the variance by the Board of Adjustment and Appeals at the June 9th Board of Adjustment and Appeals meeting. The applicant for this item has also received Army Corps and FDEP approvals for this lift. They have also received approval by the Yachtsman Cove Townhouse HOA for placing this boat lift in slip number 3. And staff does recommend approval subject to the following conditions. Again, that the applicant received variance approval from the BOA to allow the boat lift to be 2 feet 3 inches higher than the superstructure of the boat when lifted. Obviously, the applicant hasn't received that variance approval. Following approval by the Board of Adjustment and Appeals and Planning Board, and prior to initiation of construction, the applicant will be required to obtain a building permit from the Town of Highland Beach Building Department, and pursuant to Section 3021G of the Town Code, commencement of construction shall be initiated within 2 years following the date of approval by the Planning Board, and completion of all conditions of approval shall occur within 2 years following the date of approval by the Planning Board. I'll be glad to address any questions you might have.
Are there any questions? Brian?
David, if I may, one, Ingrid, just in case if they're part of a wave runner like this, if they want something bigger, do they, and which means changes the variance, would they have to come in and ask for another variance?
Well, the request for the special exception is for a 10,000 pound capacity boat lift. So I think actually we had a similar question when the item went before the Board of Adjustment and Appeals. I was advised by the authorized agent, Mr. Nutter, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, but you could actually put a larger boat, right? Because on this 10,000 pound capacity boat lift, I think that will be fine. Again, the approvals for a 10,000 pound capacity boat lift, so long as that boat, is consistent with the definition of boat lift.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, Mr. Nutter, do you want to make any presentation?
No, the only thing I'll add is if you had to put a boat on there, the boat would have to be less than 10,000 pounds, obviously. But as long as it fit on there, I mean, you would have to take the platform off. I don't know if taking the platform off would trigger another meeting, either with this board or the variance, but I mean, yeah, you could easily put a boat on there instead of a jet ski.
Well, as I understand it, the variance was a request because the boat lift was 3 foot 2 inches
Mhm.
Yeah.
and it's then accepted. So really, unless you had to raise the boat lift, there would be no problem, correct? You really wouldn't have
That's
to.
the way I see it.
Another
What about
variance.
you, Roger?
Absolutely. It won't be a problem if they want to put a boat on that lift, as long as it's under 10,000 pounds.
That's all. So they would
Fair
not need another, I don't think they would, Mr. Rubin, I don't think they would need another variance. Am I
No,
correct?
no.
Okay, all righty. Are there any other questions for either Ingrid or the applicant? If not, I think we will close the public hearing, and I will request a motion to approve with the variance, this request for the boat. I have a motion, please.
I have a motion to approve the request.
Second.
Oh.
Okay, Beverly, would you please call the roll?
Member Goldenberg,
Approve?
Member Demas,
Approve.
Member Brown,
Approved.
Member Mendelson,
Approve.
Member Adwar,
Approved.
Member Bowden,
Approve.
Chairperson Axelrod,
Approved.
motion carries.
Okay. We now move on to number 10, announcement, and the only announcement is that there will be a virtual commission meeting on June 16th at 1:30 p.m. Prior to adjournment, I want to thank everybody for helping. This went very smoothly. We accomplished what we had to accomplish. So I really appreciate it. And there being no further business.
David?
Yeah, Eileen, go ahead.
Our next meeting is when?
Beverly, if I'm called, Bev?
I think it's July 9th.
Okay.
Will that be virtual also?
No, I believe that meeting will be at the town, but we'll contact you to let you the definitive.
Just to let you know, I'll be celebrating a 4-year-old and 1-year-old's birthday that day in Texas, so I will miss the July 9th.
Have a safe trip.
You got that right.
One other
Yeah,
comment. Ingrid, if you can show people when they make an application to you, how easy it is when everybody is prepared and how smooth our meeting went for their approvals.
Yes.
This was a
that's our
real
goal.
pleasure today.
Yeah, that's always our goal. Yes.
There being no further business to come before the board, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 10?
I make that motion.
And I'll
Second.
second.
I make the motion to adjourn.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Stay
you very
well,
much,
everyone.
everybody. Thank you. Stay
You
well.
know,
Stay safe.